as we're bringing our focus to the precepts for the next few months, it feels really important to keep remembering and reminding ourselves that these are not rules, these are not shoulds, that they are part of our practice, part of the purification of our hearts and minds, and still very much deep contemplative invitations. And the first precept really lays the foundation for all. Reverence for life, commitment to refrain from killing and harming, and to instead protect and care for all beings. And as Bill mentioned, we might be tempted to kind of say, well, I don't kill, so there's a check, right? I'm done with that. And of course, I think as we're with this in the next few months, we'll see it so much deeper than that. And it made me think a little bit of the year we spent together with the Brahma Viharas. Right? So as we turn toward the precepts and beginning with this first one, there are some similarities in the practice itself, in that we meet ourselves where we are, we begin where we are. This is not a forcing. And that we expand from that, we deepen from that with the intention of including more beings. So with metta practice, with the Brahma Viharas, with kindness, we start where it's easier and we gradually include more and more. And with this precept, non-harm and protection and care for all beings, we do the same, right? We gradually deepen and expand to include more and more beings and situations. Like the Brahma Viharas, with the precepts, we want to notice where and when we get blocked or guarded, and to turn toward that with curiosity so we can understand and learn. Like the Brahma Viharas, the precepts build on and support each other. And this first one, again, feels like metta in that it's foundational to sila. So with the Brahma Viharas, if we don't have basic kindness and friendliness toward ourselves and all beings, how can we continue to deepen with those heart practices? And with this, same thing. If we don't have as our foundation a fundamental reverence and care for life, how can we deepen our sila? These are both heart practices, and Bill referenced that in his talk on Monday. He said these precepts are about increasing the sensitivity of our hearts. The sensitivity of our hearts. The sila, ethics, is heart practice in action. And when we consider actions that can cause harm versus those that arise from a desire to protect and care for beings, so much does come down to the motivation of the heart. And my sense is that we don't usually consciously set out to harm, right? This is never our conscious intention. And yet when the heart is shielded by greed, hatred, or delusion, we can. Because that's what's winding up motivating our actions. And the precepts really invite us to explore this. Is the heart open, connected, sensitive to, and motivated to act from an awareness of our shared vulnerability? Or is it motivated by greed, hatred, and delusion? And as Bill shared, the more he has kind of cultivated his heart to be sensitive to the life in all beings, the harder it's been for him to kill or participate in killing or harm. And to me, that's the deepening of sila practice. And so how do greed, hatred, and delusion in all their forms, subtle and unsubtle, wind up blocking these naturally sensitive hearts, leading to harmful action? I thought I might offer up just a few examples. So with hatred, I know with this precept, we often talk about bugs. I was kind of laughing to myself because I feel like we always wind up talking about bugs. Um, but I'm going to talk a little bit about bugs. Because since I was honestly a baby, apparently I have been terrified of bugs and spiders. I used to stand in my crib, I was told, and point at specks on the ceiling and shriek, bug, bug, bug. Um, Always just had this kind of automatic fear. And to be honest, that's actually made it very easy to want to kill spiders and bugs or to want others to kill them. And so I was just thinking about that and thinking about how fear really ultimately is a form of aversion, deep aversion. And we could kind of call it a form of hatred. Because when I'm afraid of something like that, my heart really closes, and what I fear becomes a total other, right? I don't see in a moment when a spider is crawling on the ceiling that that spider is the same as the life that I have. I don't orient to its vulnerability. None of that, right? And it's been a real effort to train myself in that a little, to train myself to notice what that fear does to me and not believe or act on what it says. Because it's such a formidable energy that can make it so easy just to act out of that. And I don't want it to be the motivator of my actions. So with this idea of hatred, aversion, we want to think about whether it's fear or anger or other forms of hatred that can motivate our intention to act. And with greed, wanting. The example that came to mind was these really huge pine trees that we removed from our yard a number of years ago in order to bring more light to the yard and in order to protect our house that they were sort of looming over. And similarly, I thought about the probably hundreds-year-old tulip tree that a neighbor took out of his yard so he could expand his house recently. And how those trees were living beings. Living beings killed in order to give us, humans, more space, more light, more comfort and ease. And I want to be clear, right? I am not condemning myself or my neighbor. It's not about us being in the category of bad or evil or having to feel ashamed, but just looking and seeing my edge there. What I valued, what motivated my actions was basically manifestations of greed. And I did participate in killing. And it happened fairly easily. And so, again, that can be an inquiry for us, right? Where does greed or wanting drive our actions and override our awareness of our connection with living beings? And delusion, I think, probably cuts across any time we cause harm or do violence. It always means we're not orienting to our interconnectedness. Bill gave that great example of his father saying fish don't feel pain as a way to justify going fishing, right? That's delusion. We delude ourselves and we allow ourselves to be in delusion. And so with this, we may have our own versions of choosing to forget or turn away from maybe the humanity of certain people, maybe forgetting that the trees and grasses are alive and breathing. Maybe bugs is here for you. We kind of get deluded with bugs or birds or fish or marshes, ecosystems. Willfully kind of ignoring our heart's knowledge that they're just like us. Vulnerable, worthy, made of earth, air, fire, and water. So that just like us, just like me, feels really important with this precept. Subject to sickness, aging, and death. This is what our hearts know is true in those moments of full mindfulness, right? And I wanted to acknowledge also that orienting to that, cultivating that degree of sensitivity may feel a little bit scary. There may be ways that we don't want the heart to be that sensitive. We don't want to have to take such care with our actions. Maybe some of us were shamed for having super sensitive hearts, for wanting to protect vulnerable beings as kids. And I can admit that I sometimes can feel a little fear around what it would mean to truly live by this precept fully. To fully honor kind of the powerful sensitivity and capacity of my heart when it's not guarded or impacted by greed, hatred, and illusion. A lot would actually have to change in my life. And so sometimes, to be honest, I kind of get overwhelmed and turn away from it, rather than inviting myself to step in little by little and just feeling my edge into a little bit more carefulness, more care. That, I think, is the invitation of these precepts. And one sutta on this first precept says, abandoning the taking of life, one abstains from taking life. This gives freedom from danger, freedom from hostility, and freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of living beings. In giving freedom from danger, hostility, and oppression to others, one gains a share in limitless freedom from danger, hostility, and oppression. This is the first great gift. This gift to ourselves and others. And I thought about this poem written hundreds of years ago by the Japanese monk Kobayashi Isa. He wrote, I'm going to roll over, so please move, cricket. I'm going to roll over, so please move, cricket. Just can hear that sensitive heart, the carefulness, the respect, the commitment to protection. And we hear with that sutta, the more we can act from these sensitive hearts, the safer we become in this world, to ourselves and to all beings. And so to me, this is actually really courageous. This precept invites us to courageously act from this sensitive, wise heart more and more. And what a gift that we can practice that together. So thank you for your attention.